make sure your cell phone is on mute during the meeting. Thank you very much.
I'll move that we approve the October 26th minutes.
Is there a second? Motion been made by Rich, seconded by Sally. The approval of the October 26, 2021 minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next on the agenda is the Big Culver Home Report by Don and Tracy Fox. Don, go ahead.
We're gonna
Tracy?
just wait for the slides to come up, so. But actually, I can go ahead and get started. And we'll certainly send a copy of the slides out to you. So thank you for providing Develop Culver an opportunity to present the findings from a research study that we did over the last 4 or 5 months. Develop Culver, just as way of background, is an Indiana Main Street organization that focuses on economic vitality and placemaking and a number of other initiatives. So a little bit of background, back in March of 2021, we actually received funding from the Office of Community and Rural Affairs. That's an Indiana organization that also operates the Main Street program. They had a grant opportunity called Taking Care of Main Street. So we applied and received funding to do a project based on some data that we had collected prior to that Don's going to talk a little bit about. But kind of the main premise of the research was to take a look at what makes Culver attractive to people. Why do they come here and why do they live? What are some of the factors that are needed to make it even more attractive? So kind of the flip side of that, what are some of the barriers or challenges that are preventing maybe part-time people from converting to full-time residents here? And then also we wanted to take a look at how could we market to people who already know about Culver but haven't made it their full-time home, and then more broadly to people who know nothing about Culver but for which this might be a suitable place for them. And before I go on, I want to say we hope to keep this down to 15 minutes. So if you're wondering how long it's going to take, it's going to be less than that.
No names.
Keep us to it. And then looking at who could help us with this research, we actually looked at an organization called Focus. It's a nonprofit based out of South Bend and Mishawaka. I've worked with Focus before on a number of projects here in Marshall County. They do a really good job. And they also have an expertise in this area. So we thought they would be a great organization to partner with. So what we'll share with you a little bit tonight is kind of how they approached this work, how we settled on the specific tactics and methods that we were going to be embarking on, and then what were some of the takeaways? What did we find out in terms of those areas that we wanted to cover? And then also, just as important for you all, is what do we do with this information? How do we use it in some of the areas that you're working on? I also want to, I know a number of you have already heard this presentation a few times, so if you ever want to weigh in and say anything about it or expand on anything, please feel free to do that, because we were able to present this at the economic development workshops that took place. I also want to thank a number of you in this room, because I know you were actually part of the research in one way or another. So, you have the executive summary, which is really a snippet of the findings. And in that executive summary is a link to the full study. So you're more than welcome to dig into it, because we're going to present just top line takeaways. And I'm going to actually turn it over to Don now, because he's going to talk a little bit about the impetus for this study.
So even well before COVID hit, there was some movement of people out of major cities into more livable communities who were looking for a higher quality of life, and they had some mobility. Well, COVID really accelerated that. I certainly noticed beginning probably March 2020, and I know that a lot of people in this room did too, that a lot of our part-time residents that we normally didn't see until warm weather months were here. And whenever I would engage those folks in conversation, and I bet you got kind of the same response, was, well, office closed up, we're totally remote, I can work pretty much from everywhere and anywhere. And we said, well, why not here? And that was true for people who were empty nesters. It was true for some of our academy parents. It was true for even two of our 20-somethings who were our daughter's classmates and said, why are we paying crazy rent downtown Chicago? And they rented a house here in town. So I think that got a number of people, whether they're board members of Culver or a volunteer like me, kind of thinking. My other interest, of course, is a member of the Plan Commission and board member for Marshall County Economic Development. So it's just something I have an interest in generally. And when school ended in June of 2020, I set out working with Jonathan Weiss to kind of figure out, one, what does the housing stock actually look like in the town of Culver, the academy area, and then directly around the lake shore, and how many of those residences are full-time and part-time. I think anecdotally we all had ideas, but I don't think any of us actually knew. And so what we figured out, looking at that combined area of the town, academy, and around the lake shore, and by around the lake shore I mean just on either side of east shore, west shore, not a mile back, because we kind of had to draw the line someplace. We found that there were about 1,165 residential units. That would include single family. It would include duplexes. It would include things like paddocks. Is it possible we missed a few? Yeah, it's possible we missed a duplex or a triplex here or there, but we felt pretty good about those numbers. 3/4 of those are actually in the town limits. The other quarter are scattered about. The next thing was kind of like, well, how many of those are full-time, part-time? If you looked at that total housing stock, we found that 52% of the tax bill went to a Culver address, but 48% of all those property tax bills went to an address outside of Culver. Not surprisingly, was that the highest proportion of part-timers were East Shore, West Shore, South Shore. The highest percentage of full-time residents were actually in the area immediately outside the town limits, in the academy, for example, the areas where we live between there and let's say where the Wilcoxes live on East Shore. That was about 88% of those residential units are occupied by full-time residents. So then we looked to see, well, where are these tax bills going? And the slide up there was kind of the major takeaway and a surprise for me. I thought we'd have a lot of people going to the Sun Belt. I thought we'd have people going to tax-free states. It turns out 75% of all our part-timers are within 150 miles of here right now, and over half of them are already Hoosiers. So then that kind of led, I think, to Develop Culver thinking, well, what do we do with this? Because Develop Culver itself did not have the resources or expertise, and this is where the OCR grant came along.
Yeah, so the next slide. So the OCR grant, which I will say was a small grant, we are in the Main Street category that didn't warrant a higher level of funding. So we got $5,000 from OCR, and I think that we got a lot out of NFocus for that $5,000. But what we wanted to do was analyze the 2021 demographics, basically building on the work that Don did to kind of validate it, to make sure we were consistent and that we were capturing the right information. And then we also wanted to understand the factors that attract full-time residents to Culver, identify factors that could convince or deter part-timers to moving here full-time, and also importantly to bring work with them. And then also to identify opportunities to increase full-time residents to Culver. Next slide. So what NFocus did in collaboration with the board was kind of a three-pronged method of collecting data. We did an online survey through TGL where we got over 200 responses to really simple, basic questions. As you all know, doing surveys, the fewer the questions, the better your response rate is going to be. Then we also had 3 focus groups with 28 full and part-time residents in person, safely distanced. And then we also had NFocus conducted 19 one-on-one, 1 hour or more interviews with full and part-time residents. Next slide. So in terms of the findings, you're not going to be able to see this. It's hard, but I think what we wanted to graphically show was, well, these are the findings from the focus groups, and there was a lot of information that they shared. It's pretty consistent with their online survey as well as with the one-on-one interviews. There were a lot of consistent themes, but kind of the 3 main takeaways, which we're going to delve into a little bit more and go to the next slide, was on the three main opportunities that basically came from all of the methods of data collection was one, reliable internet and remote workspace hub.
And there were two aspects to that. First of all, I kind of figured out how fortunate I guess we seem to be because where we live, we have really good reliable internet through MediaCom. That seems to be the exception almost and not the rule. So we learned that it's really inconsistent where, depending on where you are, even in the town limits, and certainly as you start to go around the lake. So people wanted that in their homes, and there was a demand for an e-hub or workspace. So even if you had that great reliable internet, sometimes you just need to get out of the distractions of the house, or you need to have a face-to-face meeting with somebody, and you need a place to do it. And that was true for, we got from the focus groups for people who had kind of their individual practices or small businesses, as well as not-for-profits. We had a couple of people in the focus groups that said, by the way, I'm not looking for free space. I would pay to have a spot that I could go to when I'm here and have that kind of office support.
And then the other theme that came across was Culver community-centered programming with a focus on wintertime activities. So there was a lot of recognition and complimenting Amber for the work she does at the park and the different events that she sets up. But there was also basically they want more dedicated staff as well to be looking to year-round programming for youth, for teens, even for adults, particularly in the winter. And a lot of these relate to that. There was also interest, we've heard it before, for a movie theater and a special event venue, which feeds right into year-round programming and winter type events. There was also a fair amount of respondents talking about the need for a gym or a fitness facility. Those of us who are associated with the Academy can use that, but that's not open to everybody. So there really is an interest in having that. Again, that would also fill a need for the winter time. And then there is obviously everybody who was interviewed had a great story to tell about Culver, why they were here, what attracted them to Culver. So there was also an interest in having more Culver unique events like holidays and celebrations. We have a lot of history in this town. There are a lot of ways to sort of kind of optimize what some of our rich history is to even have Culver specific events. And then while this is one that we really hadn't thought about, there's obviously a need for transportation, and everybody recognized we are not going to be the Uber hub, or we're not going to have a fleet of taxis, but is there some kind of a golf cart Uber type of thing that might be an option?
And the third thing that, whether it was focus group surveys and interviews came out with was, first of all, more affordable housing. Not a surprise to anybody in here. But the people that participated had, I want to say, kind of a common theme in mind by affordable, and one that came up over and over again. Affordable, if we had two teachers, working at community or teaching at the academy, they could afford to buy a house here. So we're not talking about subsidized housing. And that's a stretch for a lot of people who are in that income brackets. And then also, which we thought about, many of us, but this was kind of called out, particularly in the focus groups, is affordable commercial space. To kind of nurture startups and small businesses, because there's just a lot of I can't sign a year lease for, I don't know, 15, 20,000 or more dollars for whatever a year downtown would cost. So that was kind of a new one I thought as well, was affordable commercial space.
Yeah, and then the next slide, basically what now? This is, what do we do with it? Like I said, we weren't able to do everything we wanted to do, and some of the things we really wanted to do, and especially now that we have the data that we have, we really want to figure out how to market Culver as a primary residence. For what we saw is treasure trove of people who are almost there. They know Culver, they're just not here full time. How do we market to them? We didn't get into the marketing part. How do we market it to people who know nothing about Culver? There are a lot of organizations that are specializing in, hey, remote work is a thing now. Want to make your town the town to go to? We need to identify what some of those opportunities are. And then NFocus did identify for us in the final report that you'll see a couple of towns that have been successful in recruiting full-time workers, and we want to find that data, what can we learn, what takeaways can be applied to Culver that we think can really help. And then, like I mentioned earlier, we were able to present to the Economic Development Workshop. And last week we met as a work group as part of the Crossroads Culver team and developed a number of subcommittee talked about a number of subcommittees. And we're hoping that the data from our report can be used by the subcommittees already in place: marketing, communications, economic and business development, and leadership capacity. Basically, one of the things that kind of what we said at the beginning, there aren't huge surprises here, but we can move on now. We have the information that we need in terms of what factors will draw people here. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We don't need to do any more research in that space. So we're hoping that what we did can really launch some of the work that we're all going to be working on going forward, and also could probably feed into the Culver comprehensive plan as well. So the last slide, I would be remiss if I didn't thank the Culver Development Culver Board, a number of the people that you see here on town council, as well as Ginny and others that were instrumental in the efforts that we went through. And then also I call them trusted advisors, Don and Matt Keaty, who's probably on the line, who's our visitor center executive director. So with that, we're happy to answer any questions, or once you dig into the report, feel free to let us know if there's anything that stuck out.
Questions from council?
I have a couple.
Go ahead.
Having about 20 years in market research with McDonald's, one of the things I would like to see is something that illustrates the retirement community better. I didn't see that here. And because they're kind of like, they've decided to be here, but there's also a lot of snowbirds that are retired that go to Florida in the winter. So there's another facet that's, you're not going to reach them to say, oh, come back during the winter, it's great. And so that's kind of off the table. Also retirement kind of its own entity, and they need to be treated a little differently. And so I agree there's a lot of opportunity, but let's see who's the opportunity, who it's with, and let's size it up and take into account the retirees.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point, because we've been talking about, we know a number of people who would love to stay here if they had the appropriate housing, the appropriate transitional kind of care. But they don't, and not even Florida. They have to go just to Plymouth to a couple of the transitional apartments that they're building there, and there's a prime opportunity, like you said, for snowbirds, as well as for people who have lived here winter and summer, all their lives, and now they find they have to move even 20 minutes away, which is a big difference if you're used to living in Culver for 50 years.
Right.
So I think that's a really good point.
But that's a very good presentation. Thank you.
Any other council comments?
Rich, did I miss anything? Jenny, you guys have heard this a few times.
Yeah, I
Bill?
think what was interesting to me about hearing this data when we did the economic development workshop is there were similar findings when we did Stellar and did surveying. So affordable housing rose to the top, high-speed internet, more amenities, more diverse retail offerings, restaurant offerings, et cetera. I mean, even when you're talking to a full-time resident that we heavily surveyed during Stellar, or one of these part-time residents that they focused on, we're getting similar responses across the board. And that I found a little bit fascinating, because we all come from a different demographic within the town, whether we're full-time working here, full-time remote working. There's a difference between maybe the answers subtly, but it seems like we're getting the same response across the board.
Yeah, that's, I guess, what I would focus on too. We've had sort of this anecdotal idea about what we should be doing. There's some data here that clearly points us in the direction of what we should be doing. And it reinforces a lot of the things that are going on now. Broadband task force is going on now. Looking at affordable housing, and certainly Sand Hill and the Paddocks, we're picking up the examples we need to do going forward, but I think are good fillers on that. We had a plan 3 or 4 years ago for an e-hub or a timeshare office space. We still have those in BRC files. Some discussion with the school about things like that. Likewise with the healthcare or the training facilities and things like that are all things that are sort of not quite on a drawing project, but are initiatives that people are interested in and that we're talking about. So, I don't think we're starting from scratch here.
No, we're not.
So,
Any questions or any comments from anyone in the audience for Don and Tracy?
I'm really interested in the movie theater. That's something
Why
that
don't you state your-
I've,
state your
oh,
name,
I'm
please,
sorry,
and-
Lily Arzola, live here in town, resident, full-time. I've had this awesome idea for the movie theater for 10+ years. I used to work at the Edgewater and the Lake House. I've worked here my whole life, basically. If we can get that movie theater and turn it into a theater where you eat and you watch a movie or something along those lines. It could be black and white movies. It doesn't have to be digital stuff. Like things like that, I think would be a huge benefit to the town. Like you said, right? Like just utilizing the space that we already have. And I'm sure that it needs a lot of maintenance.
Virginia, I think Lily just qualified for the quality of place crossroads.
Yeah.
committee.
Yes.
Volunteer.
Yeah,
Get
sure.
your information.
I
Yeah,
know
yeah.
how to get in touch with her.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. All right.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, but all of that was things that I've been in my own mind, talking to my own people, like,
Mhm.
this is, I'm glad you got this.
So you
the
validated
data.
everything we said. Thank you.
Absolutely, yes, your data is right on. So that's all.
Anyone else in the audience? Don, Tracy, thank you very much, and we all know how much this does tie into the comp plan that's coming out, so, it's very, very vital information. Thank you all,
Thanks for the time.
no problem.
And you said the full presentation is available?
Yeah, if the link that I sent you, the executive summary, and in that executive summary at the very bottom, there's a hot link. You
Okay.
can get to it. If you have any problems, Bill, just.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. Next item on the agenda is winter services contract with sellers for snow removal.
I printed it and put it with your packet of information. It's basically the same thing as last year. Each type of event, we switched a few years ago to a charge per event. It depends on the amount of snow. So if there's less than 2 inches, there's a price for that. If it's up to 6 inches, there's a price for that. And in general, the past few years, we were staying under 10,000 total for the winter. That was how the original contract read. And we went to this itemized way of doing it because it was very difficult to spend $10,000 if it didn't snow at all. So basically, we're looking just to renew the contract again for this winter. And we picked November to put it on the agenda because you never know when it's.
You want us to act on that tonight?
Yeah, I would.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the solar services contract for snow removal?
I would move that we approve this stellar proposed contract for snow removal, with a good insurance policy that won't snow in November or early December, with the proposal that follows the pricing from last year.
And I believe the total price on there is
Well, no, it's
It's amended.
It's 4 different events,
4 different
type of
events.
snows, so
We've
the
put
total could be anything
Be
depending on
anything.
how much it snows, but at least you know the price per snow event.
okay. Motion made by Rich, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Sally. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Next on the agenda is my appointment to the Board of Zoning Appeal. First of all, I want to thank 5 applicants. We had 5 applicants apply for this position, which was vacated by, everyone knows, Lou Marshall. Dr. Witt and I conducted a 2-day There's a 2-day intervals with all 5 individuals. And I must say that all 5 being very well qualified. We have here with us tonight, Andrew Nelson. Andrew, if you would stand up, please. Andrew was my choice to fill the vacancy on the Board of Zoning Appeals. Andrew, if you want to take a minute, just give a brief synopsis of yourself.
So I'm Andrew Nelson. I live just outside the town of Culver, still in the 2-mile zoning. I've lived here for about 8 years, but been around Culver for about 20. I am the battery aid counselor at Culver Academies. I've been there for 4 years now. Worked with Don and Andy Stratty on the planning commission. I've attended some planning commission meetings in the past. The Tom Bestie PUD was of interest to me, so I had some thoughts on that. I've also been on the opposite side where recently my mother went through a BZA meeting to get an approval for a garage. So I've seen both sides of it, and my goal is I love this town. I want to see it grow properly. I want to see us maintain the culture that we have here and continue to get those people to be full-time. Any questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Just will need you to come in Friday and be sworn in by Karen. She's out at the conference this week, but she'll be in Friday and attend the next meeting.
We'll give you some orientation.
Right.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you for volunteering. You
Absolutely.
and the other candidates.
Okay, next on the agenda, regional stellar plan update.
Yeah, so for regional stellar, we have 2 projects. One is the park project. Shannon is completing application for that and submitting that to Oprah. We will probably hear before end of year that money has been awarded and we can work on that. As you know, Torrey Group is doing the design that you all approved at the last meeting. So that's pretty well status quo at the moment. The smaller trail projects involved in regional stellar won't begin anytime soon. That's through NDOT application. So I'm going to skip straight into town manager's report, which will also cover our stellar plan update, since that's kind of scattered throughout my report. The electric vehicles charging station, Rocky is finishing a job. We're next on the list, so that should happen fairly soon. Hopefully before any snow arrives, we'll get that pad put in. Then the paving and crack sealing, that's the community crossings matching grant. We're getting ready to close that out. Bob and I are working on finishing up with the contractor on some minor repairs. There is a procedure for that I'm looking into based on Jonathan's past work on closing these out. So hopefully we'll get that taken care of before the next council meeting. State Road 10 sidewalks in West Jefferson Street. We meet with Mike Reese on Wednesday tomorrow to talk about those drainage issues so that we can get that resolved and close out that grant. And I'll keep you updated on that because there are 2 in that. And in the meantime, Bob has had them finishing up other work on that, which is kind of like the what do they call the list?
Punch list. Yeah.
Why can I never think of Lake Max phase trail phase 2. Phase 1 and 2 within this project, this project is broken into 4 phases. Phase 1 and 2 are getting complete right now. And that takes us all the way to the alley behind Collins Building, the commercial building that we own, etc. Phase 3 was to start down Plymouth Street. And then phase 4 is once we turn off Plymouth Street and head down South Main Street toward the cemetery. What we have asked Bob and the inspector from Torrey Group have asked the contractor, given the amount of asphalt used in phase 3, we want to go on to phase 4 and come back and start phase 3 in the spring. So we've written, you have to basically seek permission, write the contractor, etc. The contractor is very much agreeable to this because they understand weather and asphalt. So we're likely going to try to get through that phase 4, come back and do phase 3 in the spring. And that's really the longest stretch of that project. So just heads up on that. We will probably status the community on that as well, just so people from on Plymouth Street realize it's not starting any second now.
Right.
And I'll reach out to some of the ones that have been vocal with us that want to keep up on what's going on. Lake Max Phase 3, that is pretty much status quo. We are still waiting on that utility agreement that's related to this project as well as the other project. And I have pinged the academies a couple times on that, so hoping to get that back soon. Slate and Jefferson Street Trail. This is still in the phase of environmental work. We'll ask Mike for an update on that tomorrow when he's here, since he's going to be here. I'm going to skip over that water ordinance update and water project proposal for Midwestern for the project in the north end of town. Again, we're waiting on that utility agreement before we can take care of that. Knowing that we are meeting with them, Bill, next Monday,
Right.
remind me that we need to ask about that
Right.
because we really got to get that done. Peerless proposal for a new well. They've requested a meeting with Bob and me for Monday. And that is really about the permitting process, which tells us that they're ready to get moving with us. We've got to have that permit process done before we can start testing, which is why you haven't seen anything happen down there. But we'll let you know how that meeting goes. I left the intersection of Cavalier Drive in there just because I know Jim's working on, we're going to incorporate that along with those other, the electronic charging station and the one-way street out here on Washington, all into that ordinance. Alley behind Ohio Street on south end of town, I've also left that in there. I've requested some quotes for surveying, don't have those back yet, but that literally occurred the day before I went on vacation, so I'll follow up with those folks and see if we can get that in.
Right, one comment on that.
Uh-huh.
Are we gonna give them a heads up that this is going on as they see stakes going in their backyard around their garage?
Yeah, we certainly can.
I just want to be proactive.
Yeah.
Probably people already know it.
Yeah.
Good.
It's in the process of going to happen.
Short enough distance, I could go door to door with a flyer and
Yeah.
put it on each door, like this is why you're gonna
Here's,
see
this
the
is gonna
survey.
happen.
Yeah. And do you guys want me to, knowing, so we found an old survey from, I want to say 1999.
What,
That's, that company's still in existence, I believe under a different name, but are you, I know you wanted proposed costs. Do you want to, vote on that at the next meeting, whether to spend the money on the survey or if you want to move forward with the survey? You know, we're guessing about $1,000.
and I know Bob was wanting to not get charged twice, before and after.
Yeah,
So let's get a price proposal
okay,
that, turnkey.
okay,
And let's present it that way, as a
Yeah.
turnkey one.
Yeah, and if they're updating the
Agreed.
proposal that they, or the
Yeah.
survey that they
Yeah.
did, as opposed to a new survey.
Right.
yeah, it could be a
There
different,
may be stakes there already, just identifying and flagging.
They just gotta find them.
yeah.
Sometimes that's easier said than done.
Yeah. The next thing is that VS engineering proposal. It's sitting in your packet. Basically, Bob and I have been working on coming up with a list of roads for the next community crossings grant. That grant is due in January. There's paperwork that has to be done in December. Not this particular paperwork, but we basically have to update our asset management plan. We have to update our street ratings. MACOG already came down and did the street ratings. You guys may recall, I was working with MACOG back in September, I think, on that. They have done that work. They're putting together those documents with us. But part of that process is that Bob and I will have to give MACOG a list of these are the roads we want to put into the application. And community crossings works a little different than some of the grants we're used to. There's a 50% match, and we've always used our paving budget as that match. So one of the projects, though, is a little different. Usually when we put roads into that grant application, we're just asking to mill and pave a road. And here's the 10 we want to do. And that's how we handle this in the past. County probably has a list of, over $1 million. milling and paving. This particular project, North Lake Shore Drive, so from 17 and 10 all the way down to Academy Road, that little stretch, we would like to ideally widen it into our right of way. And we have plenty of right of way there. It may not look like it, but there's some right of way there. But that's not a typical milling and paving. It takes engineering, and you've got to figure out how to do that. There's also drainage issue there up by Park and Shop, you know, where we put in the rain garden. There's some complicated issues to doing that. So before we can put it into the community crossings list, we would want to have engineered. The construction side of it would still go through the grant, and that would get bid out like normal through the grant process. But the engineering is not covered with community crossings grant dollars. So that's why you have, Bob went to the engineer, he wanted to take a look at it, got this proposal to do the work. Karen and Bob have talked, and this would come out of the local MBH budget, and we have that budgeted. So Karen and Bob wanted me to let you know that side of it. Bob is online. Bob, do you have anything to add?
No, that pretty much describes it.
So we are looking for a motion to approve of us getting this done. And ideally, this engineering would get done before we submit that grant application.
I move we engage the BS engineer.
Yep.
To do the, the engineering. Yeah, I move that we do, B&H or B&S engineering to, or service to do the, engineering.
Second.
Motion been made by Bill Clevenger, made by Bill Ham to engage VS Engineering. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same time. Motion carried.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I have one more question. The sidewalk,
Mhm.
is it everything gonna be on the east side? Because the sidewalk is on the west side.
Yes, yeah, that's where it would extend,
Okay,
and that's where we've got right away.
and I don't know if you've noticed, but there's a lot of tire scrapes along those curves there. It makes me a little nervous knowing people walk on that sidewalk where they're
Yeah.
breaking their tires.
Yeah, that's one of the main reasons we
Yeah.
like to widen it.
Yeah, you can see it.
We can move the center line over 2 feet. It would be helpful.
Okay.
I agree.
Yeah.
And it's kind of coming into that intersection from the north to south and taking the right onto Academy Road. It's a little tight for that
Yeah.
sidewalk.
And that's where it's supposed to
Tight
take
for
out
trucks
any-
and trucks with trailers and things
Yeah.
like that. So to widen it will help.
I know not, we haven't even applied for the grant yet, but when is it likely, assuming the grant is approved, that this work will be done? I mean, this looks like it's about $60,000 worth of work in between 2021 and 2022, but actually the road construction.
Oh, the community crossings grant, it would be for next year.
In 20.
They do 2 rounds each year, and we did not do the second round this year. We skipped it to apply for January round. Okay, Amber is out tonight, but we really don't have anything new on, in terms of her projects. I've just listed them there, for your sake. So I will turn it over to, I'm gonna skip past emergency services, because I know the department has the report. The broadband task force group, we did meet again today. And we discussed the idea of hiring, a consultant to work with us, because we're at the stage, we're ready to make some decisions about moving forward. And essentially, when we did the economic development workshop and fiber broadband came up several times, I'd been discussing this with Cheryl Morphew, the consultant we used there, and she highly recommended the guy who used to head up Indiana Broadband. He's now consulting and has left the state agency. He worked under Lieutenant Governor's office for Indiana Broadband. So I spoke with him before the task force met, explained to him where the task force is at, that we've talked to service providers, that we're starting to determine how to move forward with getting this done. He he was thrilled with the opportunity of where we're at, thought you could offer services. Our biggest concern is technical expertise. So we started engaging with
Your
companies.
biggest concern is?
Technical expertise. You know, we want to know rates and how it would get installed underground, permitting, all those sorts of things that we are not expert at. So the task force is waiting on a proposal from him. I've given him sort of an executive summary of where we're at so that he can give us a proposal. And then we will present to the council and redevelopment commission when we get that proposal. Update you on where we're at and why we want to move forward with a consultant. Because obviously our task force doesn't have a budget
Do you have a time frame for getting the proposal?
by next meeting. And our task force is planning on meeting before you guys meet again too, so that they can look at that proposal first.
Okay, thank you.
The Economic Development Initiative, I've sent you all an executive summary of how that went. As Don and Tracy covered in their presentation, we've formed a team called Crossroads Culver. They'll have 4 subcommittees: quality of place that we're going to recruit Lily for, marketing and communication, business development, and leadership capacity building. Those are the 4 key subcommittees. We are hoping to have those groups meet in December. Karen Schuman and I are co-chairing the steering committee for that team. And we're all really excited. So we've already met since the economic development workshop, and that's pretty good stuff. Skipping over ready grants because I have no news for you on that. Annexation of Tamarack Road. I think you guys know where we're at with that project. And emergency services agreement with Culver Academies. We have a meeting with them on Monday. Jeff completed his data collection. So Jeff, Bill Gibbons, and I are going to go over and meet with the academies. And that's it.
Well, good, thank you.
I didn't see that presentation yet.
For emergency services.
Yeah, I was gonna give you the thoughts on graphics.
Okay. Yeah, we'll get it to you.
Okay, thank you.
It's mainly some data, but we'll get it to you.
Yeah, okay. I'll get right on it. Yeah, that's Monday.
Yeah.
We're meeting at 3 o'clock on Monday.
Yeah. I'll try to get that to you tomorrow because we're out Thursday.
Oh,
No,
okay.
I'll just come in Thursday.
Department head reports. Jeff, are you online?
He was, let's see, I might have him on. Jeff, if you're online, just unmute yourself.
Jeff?
Okay.
We'll just go ahead and move on.
Yeah.
Fire. Terry?
Yeah, to answer Rich's question from the last meeting, with our hiring event, we have 1 application. Not exactly what we expected. We were hoping for more. We also had another application from another person. And with that, a change is going to, what we would like to propose a change in how we, or where the boundaries of the people that we can allow to be volunteers. Now it is in Union Township, and or you have to work in the town of Culver full time. Those are rules that have to be, that have been since the tradition, I think. And what we're gonna propose is that we set a minute circle around the station, 5 to 6 minutes out, because that reaches, Stark County's 2 miles away. And we're not allowed to use the people that are out in that area, or we go down to 110, 1 mile, we're 4 miles out there, or we go clear to Pine Road out to the east, and then to the north we go to, but those are more miles away than some of these people that live, that want to get on a department that we've had to shun and say, we can't because you don't live here. So what we're gonna propose, I don't think there's gonna be any issue or bylaws are gonna have to change, and I think that's what that is. So that these people that are applying, both of our new applicants live outside the Union Township and do not work there. This is probably, in my mind, I could think of 2 or 3 others through a few years that we've had to not accept because of that rule. And with us not getting any more, I think that something's gonna have to change, and that's what we've come up with a change, as long as the board doesn't have any issues with it. I don't know if they do, they need to voice us, let us know why or why not we shouldn't do it. So with that, we're gonna continue on. Add to that.
Any comments?
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
We gotta get people from where we can get them.
I would agree unless, Jim has any issues or concerns about that. I don't think.
I don't have any concerns about that. I suppose the rule was made because they wanted to have people get to the fire station quickly.
Terry, how many are you looking for?
We can handle 7 new ones right now. We've been on a short staff for years and dwindling. People have just moved away.
How many are on your staff now?
14.
And you'd like 21?
Yeah. We can accept up to 25, I believe.
Okay.
But if we had 21, it's different. You have one single house fire, you'd be amazed how many people it takes. It's not 2 guys going out.
Right.
It's a crew. That's just the way it is, though. We'd like to try to do something to get them in. I know we've increased budget for volunteers, probably one of the highest paid in the area now after that. People that are on and realizing that, they, they're not there for the money. The guys that are there, they're there for community. So with that, we'll continue on that as a hiring event.
Do we need to, make a formal motion on that? To change it? Oh, no. Okay.
You're gonna change that in the bylaws.
Yeah, they're gonna change it.
We will vote on it in our house,
Yeah,
Okay.
in our
good
bylaws.
point, but yeah,
I just want to make sure,
he's asking for,
make sure there's no reason why not.
not to.
Have you talked to the township trustee?
No.
Make it one of,
I
Run it by her.
by her, before she starts writing checks, but she's not going to.
Right, because the town, they sure should have done this, but I'll talk about it.
Hey, Bill, they are, for some reason, we cannot unmute that. But he was only gonna report on the Monday meeting that we're having.
Oh, okay.
I can't, but I don't get an option to unmute him and he can't do it on his end.
Okay, thank you. Anything else there?
One other thing, we're having our annual fundraiser, which we changed a year ago. We're having a gun raffle. It's a chance to win 4 guns. We did it last year, it went really well. The gun raffle will be the 22nd of this month. Tickets are $10 a piece. I believe there's up to 650 tickets sold for 4 guns. Seem to solid, easy, and people buy them. If they like to buy one tonight, I have a few, but wanted to get that out there. That's not the only fundraiser that we really have anymore. And that's it.
Thank you. Wayne?
I got a couple things. Be gracious of the CRC, they granted money to purchase a new car and put council's permission. I'd like to start moving forward with that, and hopefully by the end of the month, I'll have a hope for that stuff. The next meeting.
Good luck in getting it timely.
Yeah.
That's my mistake. I don't know, because they said they're not really shortchanged on a lot of stuff, so I don't know how long it'll be once it's ordered. They're talking maybe March.
2023.
I think you're right. Anybody got any problem with
I don't have
letting
any
Wayne go ahead and put it out for the bid?
Yeah.
Yep, go ahead.
Go ahead, sir.
Halloween went really well. A lot of kids got rid of everything. So that was good.
How much money did you make from arresting people?
Well, if it went by quota, we'd probably give me a long list. I don't know if it was brought up at a previous meeting. I told Amber I'd bring it up. December 3rd, Christmas lighting. There's gonna be a Christmas parade at 6:45. Tree lighting at 7. So if you're all well aware of it.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Just as a tie on to that, Amber was telling me that there is gonna be a turkey trot this year. We have to do a special event form for that because it's just a very small group. And Wayne's aware of the route, et cetera. So just FYI, if you see an announcement on TGL or something about that turkey trot.
Utilities, Bob?
Only thing I have is I received 0 applications for leaf crew. So if you know anybody that needs a little extra Christmas money, send them my way.
Not volunteering.
And leaf collection started what, today? Or yesterday?
Yeah, it started yesterday.
Okay.
I think we're gonna have to take a look at changing the compensation package for seasonal help.
Right.
We definitely, I mean, we're not even getting applications.
Right.
Might be the first year we've not even received an application. I believe, Bob, correct me if I'm wrong, is that position at like $10.50 an hour or something?
I believe it starts at 11. My current guy that stayed on for leaves for summer, I think he's at 11.50 if I remember right.
We need to look at it. Anything else, Bob?
That's all I have for you, unless you have something for me.
Thank you, sir. Clerks report.
I think you saw that Karen sent you all her report as well as the claims. So if you want, I can quickly go through her report. Which is basically claims in excess of 2,000. Hooters Tree Service for 3,000. Culver Lake and Max Visitor Center 3,500 for the 3rd quarter of the year and 3,500 for the 4th quarter of the year. Cheryl Morphew Consulting, that's our economic development workshop. Note that hers is 4,000. She charged us less than the contract because we basically changed scope of work there. E&B Paving Incorporated. This is for the community crossings paving, the $247,475.25. Previously approved claims, Baker Tilly Municipal Advisors, 2,500 for the water rate study and 2,500 for sewer rate study. Cronin Associates, that's for the economic development study that Buzz Cronin's been working on for 7,500.
That's what I'm working on. Yeah, okay.
Troyer Group for the park improvement project. This is they invoiced us in piecemeal $2,367.50. Under contractual operational, we have NIPSCO for public services and medical trust. You can see those amounts. And then of course we have payroll and bond payments.
Is there a motion to approve claims over 2,000?
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Bill Clevenger, seconded by Rich. To approve claims over 2,000. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Also, Karen wanted you to know, in the binder, she included ordinance 2021-012. That was the rezone of the Barrett property. We passed this in 3 readings at the October 12th meeting, but did not sign it as Jim requested the title be revised. So please sign the one in the book so that we can file it in the recorder's office. Karen also notes the ILMCT annual conference. She's going to be at the Indiana League of Clerks and Treasurers Conference and State Board of Accounts meeting November 6th through the 10th. So according to this, I have graciously agreed to take the minutes at the meeting. Anyway, that was just, she wanted you to know where she's at. And Karen actually has a position with the League of Clerks now. So she is doing actual work while she's there too. So easy on her if you have to get tough with her. And that's it for the clerk's report.
Thank you. Attorney's report.
Not really much. I did, ask Karen for some information related to that stop sign thing, and she sent it to me, and then I had some other questions. And I needed to get back with her, and I didn't, because I knew she was gone. Although I inadvertently sent an email to both you and her about the zoning ordinance, and my gosh, she sent it to me from wherever she is.
The link to it online.
Evansville, she's in Evansville.
So
I think she has that link copy pasted.
Yeah,
Several
apparently.
places now. We get that request a lot.
And I dropped all of you an email with a copy of kind of a draft of an amended unsafe building and property ordinance. You got one too, right?
Yes, sir.
So I'm not expecting you to do anything on that. My colleague is agreed to sort of take the lead on all of that, and she hasn't had a chance yet to work through this either, so we'll let that go through, and then when we get it in ready form, we'll try to get it, we're gonna need a public hearing. We're gonna need to go through the whole process on it. So hopefully we can do it in December and get it ready to go January 1st. She doesn't want to really dig in until after that date anyway. And then just a litigation update, no update. The Insurance Carriers Council is working on a couple of strategies to try and deep six the case sooner than later. So we'll keep working on that.
Jim, he did, call me to,
Okay,
went through a session with me, so I need to
looking for some information. to
basically
beef up
giving
his-
me the strategies too.
Yeah. So, as I said before, it's interesting, the complaint. They didn't even mention the fact that we had a demolition order and,
Right.
that was upheld or anything else. And,
There's a piece of heavy duty equipment sitting on the lot now. It's like a.
I don't know on that, but I was gonna,
I don't
if
think so.
you're gonna add that to the TIF district, that's something we need to take a look at. I see Phil sent us an email.
It's already in the tip,
Okay, so it's all right.
yeah.
But yeah, I don't know what that was all about. But somebody told me that the lawyer that filed the new complaint was who he has now doing some criminal defense work. So I don't know if I might go to Indianapolis. Anyway, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Saga continues.
Saga continues.
Thanks, Jim. Anyone present for a utility shut off or ordinance violation? Hearing or seeing none. Citizen input. Anyone online for citizen input?
I don't see any hands up or comments in the chat box, so I think you're good with the online ones.
Okay. Citizen input in the room. John?
Yeah, John Halford, just a couple of questions regarding snow removal. Is he gonna take care of, Stella's gonna take care of sidewalks, town sidewalks?
No, it's just the commercial areas, John, from the root beer stand down through Main Street. We've been having snow removed from those sidewalks by what, the last 5 or 6 years, so.
The Main Street, I
Yeah.
brought this over here because you've added a lot of concrete over here. Are the homeowners gonna shovel that?
Yeah, it's not
That's
considered
about-
commercial area.
That's about 12 feet wide over here. That's gonna be a chore. The other thing was that building on Jefferson, as you come in, it looks, it's fire trap.
That goes to commissioners on Monday for a bid for demolition.
Well, that's in the works.
Yeah, that's a county project because it's outside town limits.
Hopefully we get an award, or we get a low bid, we can make an award on November 23rd, is that?
23rd, yes.
Okay.
But they probably won't demolish it till that first year.
That would certainly help people come into town,
Right.
especially through that efforts. The other thing, is it too late to comment on additional concrete in the park? Is that a done issue for Market Day?
No, we still take public input on any of those Oprah projects leading all the way up to construction. And there will be, when they do the final design, we normally will put out the final design and you can have input on that too. So you can certainly comment.
Can I make a comment now on that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure. I had to write it down because I forget half the stuff I want to say, so I gotta write it down. My name is John Helfrey, and my wife and I have been permanent Culver residents since 2008. We were also frequent visitors through the 70s and 80s. Since retiring here, I spent a number of years on the Park Board, BZA, and now the Tree Commission. So I'm very aware of how much effort, time, and money it takes to maintain progress and high standards this community wants. I also know how much hard work goes into making good decisions, planning projects, and seeing them through to completion. So I wanted to commend all the people that have been involved with the great improvements to the town infrastructure and parks over the years. I do have to apologize for this late entry, in my opinion, concerning the additional concrete in the town park. I guess I've become like the people I used to complain about when I was volunteering my time on various boards. But better late than never. During my BZA 7-year tenure, there were a lot of variance requests to decrease the percentage of green space required in regulation to accommodate larger housing. As a committee responsible to Culver community, which included town and lake homes as well as businesses, we normally denied those requests and advised contractors to amend their plans. However, we did make some exceptions to some degree when the original lot size was so small it made sense. With regards to the town park, in my opinion, more concrete to Market Bay does not make sense. There will be a lot of costs involved in the implementation, loss of green space, and future maintenance due to cracking and crumble for an event that takes place 1 day a week for 7 hours over 6 months. As a current member of the Tree Commission, I see how many of the wrong trees were planted years ago in the wrong locations and have become a risk to property and to people. Over the last few years, we've taken down we've removed many trees and planted new ones that are appropriate in the space and the environment. If not heard as yet, I would make this suggestion. I understand the marketing aspect of the Lakeview Park drawing people to Market Day. So if the intent is to keep it in the park, why not utilize the parking lot for 1 week on the 1 weekly 7-hour day? The vendors could be positioned in a 150-foot section of the parking lot. Their vehicles could enter and park on the east side exit. Close off parking on the spaces facing the lake on the west side, but allow parking facing the street. Allow for visitors' vehicles to enter from the west side, park, and when done, back up and exit out the west entrance. Otherwise, the status quo could remain in place, or there are other areas around town. Although venues help, successful market days should rely on products. Thank you.
Thank you,
John,
John.
would you mind can I have a copy of the letter? Would you mind? Because I've been trying to collect the information we've received through council on the project. And then I wanted to follow up with council because you've had some similar feedback on the,
Right.
Part of the reason asphalt was being added, or in this particular case, or sidewalk or whatever, was for that ADA component of the project, which is a requirement of receiving federal funding, and this is a grant project. The one thing that I didn't mention in the last meeting, because I wanted to confirm it before saying it in a public meeting, part of the preliminary design process when Amber was working with Troyer Group on that and getting feedback from Lions Club, from Farmers Market, et cetera, we did get feedback about more green space, less asphalt, et cetera. The equipment we're taking out, the old park equipment, is going to get converted into some green space on the northern end of the park there with that older sort of vintage equipment. And then we reduced the size of the gathering space that is going in as part of this project. So if you look at the original design and you look at what the space is today, we're actually increasing green space with this project. And I know it doesn't sound like that to people who know there's gonna be a sidewalk going in for ADA compliance. But, that's one of the things that we asked for early on as we came into Lions Club, because as you all know, Lions Club had major concerns about maintaining view and green space and gathering, et cetera. So when the final design does come out, we will make sure this concern, which is a big concern for, a number of the people that walked in here, that we get that to Mike Reese and company and say, is there any more we can do to increase that green space or less in the asphalt space or whatever the case is? But I wanted you to know that. And Amber and I had talked about it, but I wanted that confirmed before we said we're actually improving the green space there. And we probably should have said that early enough on, but this design has been through several iterations already, and I wanted to make sure that Mike could tell us that for a fact. So that's just an FYI. But thank you, John, for letting me keep that.
Any other citizen input in the room?
Hi,
Yes, ma'am.
my name is Karen Lee. I sent everybody on the council an email last week regarding my $513 water bill. Nowhere in the email did it ask for forgiveness for the bill. I did, 2 months ago, when Julie Cowell called me and told me I was on the high water report, I said to her then, when I went in to talk about it, because I was horrified, that I used 41,000 gallons of water in 30 days and was unaware. I said, I need a minute to pay this because my bill is normally about $100, $120 if Marcellus doesn't come home from college with 4 campers. But I sent an email asking that, and I think that was misconstrued, thinking that I was needing charity, but I paid double my bill last month and was assessed a $30 late fee. I'm one income. I have a good income, but again, I'm one income and I support 2 children. And I've been in this town at that address since 2014, and we moved here from Chicago in 1991. So my bill has always been the same. Mr. Porter sent his guys out to check the meter because I was sure that the meter had to be wrong because it was 41,000 gallons of water. And they said that it wasn't. I believe them, although I do still think that the meter had a glitch in it because someone else from town sent me a 0 usage bill that they had received. So there is something wrong with the meters. And I think the council should consider some kind of alarm system at the utility department. So that is a gross waste of water if that's the case. And we in the Midwest are very lucky, but some people are not, and we should never take advantage of the fact that we have water here. Just to put things in context, the amount of water that was wasted can fill an in-ground 5-foot pool, 25 by 45 foot. The house was inspected. There was no water damage. I obviously know if there was 41,000 gallons of water leaking. I stand by that. I work at home. I work for Southland Orthopedics. I work at home 90% of the time. Every now and again, I do have to go into the office and educate physicians. But for the most part, I am at home. When my son flushes the toilet upstairs, I hear it run through the pipes. I work right by that wall. So to me, for that to leak and me not to know, especially on one income, utilities are variables that I can control. I turn out the lights. I tell my son, don't take a half-hour shower, take a 10-minute shower. So some grace is asked for me to, I'm gonna need some time to pay that $513 bill. And please consider implementing some kind of safeguard, because according to Julie Cowell, she makes 10 of these calls a month. That's a lot. We are wasting water in this town. And that's alarming on its own. And I would never want anyone else to have a $500 bill. So that's why I'm here. And I'm behind the camera and behind the scenes a lot. And I just thought you guys needed to see my face. Here I am.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
I
And
do
we
have
are-
to speak on behalf of Karen because my sister was in her boat, with an $800 bill, had no clue a random toilet, but it was one toilet leaking in that case. And you couldn't hear it. We had been in the building ourselves several times. And it's one reason I think, I pushed a little hard on the software that we looked at purchasing because right now we don't have a way to see in real time it happening. We can see it when the bills come out or 30 days later, or sometimes 10 days later. If yours had been 30 days of that, you might have had the $800 bill. But to do something about this, to get an alarm into that software system, it's a large expense, as you all know, we've presented that.
Right.
But this seems to be, it's happened commonly enough that it's affecting individual lives.
I mean, it's for me to have a $500 bill, that's normally $100. It's a shock to my budget. I'm not saying that I need to go to the trustee and pay it. I'm not a welfare case. I take offense to that because I do pay my bills, but I just need not to have maybe a $30 late fee assessed while I'm trying to pay this bill down, while I'm paying double. I have a very hungry football player at college. He's on a full scholarship, but they only feed him so much. So, all of my extra goes to that and my high school son. So just a little bit of grace is all I'm asking for. Because it's a huge bill. And I still don't think the meter was right, but that's my personal opinion. The toilets were replaced right away. I put the blue drops in them that Julie gave me. I waited 2 hours before I went to the bathroom, no blue water. So, I mean, I did everything. And the amount, the 41,000 gallons of water is so alarming because an average, I'm just Googling, so nothing scientific, but the average toilet leak is 200 gallons a day. And that would be, I would have leaked 1,300 a day. So in a 30-day period. So it's just, the whole situation is just really, it's just really bad. So anyway, thank you for listening.
Thank you, Kathy, for coming in and talking to us.
Yes.
I'm glad you brought this up because I was gonna bring it up if you didn't.
Okay,
I read your letter
thank you.
and I don't get it. Is this an anomaly? Is it an error in the system or we can't, nobody can figure it out, it seems like.
Well, what happens too is if the water, we're leaking from somewhere into the yard and we see it and we go, it's not ending up in our system, she wouldn't get charged it. We'd forgive the amount. That's what our policy is.
Right. Paid for the water, but not.
But if the water ends
Right.
up down in the sewer plant and we're treating it, it has to get paid for. So her $500 bill, my sister's $800 bill, if we can't visibly see that it's been spewing out into a yard or something, we end up charging the customer. It's very frustrating.
Do we have the right person looking at it? So is there an expert that can? solve this?
We're getting ready to put into place, like you said.
Yeah, well, I was gonna
Right.
piggyback that on it too, because I'm still ready to talk about that more.
I mean, I expressed concern that you had to, and Bob had sent me a copy of his review of the daily bill, which showed the utilization and it doesn't identify where it's coming from, but it showed the whole 30 days and he carved out every day whether there was normal utilization or whether how many gallons were used each of those days. They did test the meter. I think besides that or independent of that, I mean, I don't know what the explanation is.
Yeah, it's all guesses and assumptions. I mean.
40,000 gallons of water is a lot of water. So, I mean, I would be willing, and I don't know
Well,
what.
it was within 5 hours, right?
Well, no,
Okay.
I was wrong. Julia
Oh,
told me
oh.
that and I was wrong. So she had sent me the same thing that Mr. West is talking about.
Okay.
There was a time period, I think, where 8,000 was used in a couple hour period. And still, that's a gross amount of water waste. And I honestly feel like when I'm home alone with 2 puppies, that I would hear something, especially because the blue tabs that I was given didn't turn the water blue in the toilet, which I don't know how. I don't know how. I used it because you told me to. I don't know if that holds any significance, but I mean, I just feel like, I know when my son flushes the toilet, I can hear the water. You know, and if 8,000 gallons were going through in a 2 to 3, 4, 5 hour period, I mean, I feel like I would hear that. I would be like, wait a minute. Yeah, or see it or something. And so
It just defies logic.
it does.
What would be our process to waive the penalty fees,
Oh, the late fees?
the late fees?
I think you would have to approve that, I would assume, right, Jim? I don't know that we've ever done that, but I would assume that the council approves that.
From what I hear Karen saying is that she's, she's willing to pay.
it's my bill,
Doesn't wanna
even
go
though
to
I think it's
trustee to
ridiculous.
get,
Yeah,
uh,
right.
I mean, if she's paying that off in installments of $30, but, I mean, she's basically gonna add about another $100 to
The bill.
her bill.
Yeah.
But-
Right.
And I want to add something because I talked to Julie the other day. I just, my water bill that I just paid was about $45 and change. But the meter said I only used 100 gallons on my second meter.
As in, you need your meter tested, or?
Well, they're gonna go out and apparently go out, but I had a problem with the meter before, and now this meter is only reading 100 gallons. I'm going to shoot myself in the foot, but 100, if 100 gallons is $45, yeah, that's a heck of a lot of money for 100 gallons. of water.
You pay the minimum.
Well, the minimum.
I asked one that
You have to pay
working.
$35 no matter what your bill. There's a
Okay.
minimum level, and then usage tacked onto that. So 45 would make sense in that.
Bill, can you just give your meter to Karen?
Yeah, I'll take it.
And Karen,
Or get that zero we had.
if you get mad at, this is not devil, if you get mad at me, I'm not gonna bring any more sports pages about your kids. You know, it wouldn't be 41,000 gallons, but I would guess it would take about 1,000 to 1,500 gallons if Marcellus takes just a short shower to wash his size of his body off.
Yeah.
That could be part of
Wash
it.
his clothes. Yeah, there's 4 hampers when we bring them home. Yeah.
Do you want to make a motion to waive the late
Yes,
fee?
I would make, because of all the background on this and the fact that we are looking at a new system that is extremely expensive, but it would help us identify this, this potential problem that is not unique to just your situation. I would make a motion that we
Penalty
waive
fee or
the
whatever you
penalty,
call it, yeah.
late fees associated with this, and give you a
Credit for the 30, credit for the
work
30
on
that
it.
that you've already paid.
Yes.
If you want to make a motion.
No, I'm just adding to
I
it.
know, but I think to work out with either Julie or Karen, a payment time that you need to pay this off. So rather than us arbitrarily saying you've got to do it in the next 60 days,
Right.
work with them with the time period and waive the late fees, assuming that you are compliant with that agreement.
You made the motion, there's a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
So do you want to put on the agenda the software for the next meeting by chance?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. If this is gonna happen again.
Yeah.
Trust me, it happens every month.
Right.
And it's
10 calls a month from Julie.
But I want the people that are selling that software to guarantee us that we will be able to catch this. Let's not make an assumption that we will be able to catch it.
Yeah, that's what the software does, It gives us the real-time data. So if that's happening in your house,
So there's an alarm.
we get.
Julie
notified.
gets the notification
I do.
instantaneously.
Under-
This is what I understand.
Okay.
And
You know, that's how it was presented to us.
do you have a copy of that, Bill? I mean,
I have a copy.
I went through that after Karen's letter, just to refresh my recollection on what that.
Sure, it's in the contract.
Yes.
Well, and maybe we can get a demo of what, this software is being used in other cities and towns. So if something like what happened in Karen's situation occurs, what's that look like on our end?
Right.
They could demo that for us if we want to call them back and have something like that done. Or we can send Julie and or Bob to one of their clients' communities to see this is how it works. I mean, they kind of came in and did that with us here.
They did.
They had three or four sales reps.
Yep.
And I'm talking outside the council meeting. They met with
Oh,
Bob
oh.
and Julie and et cetera. So, and they explained how it would work, how it would get installed, et cetera.
Yeah, this was
But-
before you, Bill.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So essentially, it gives you real-time data instead of data at the end of the billing cycle.
Yeah, to catch it, for sure.
Right.
The way that software works is
Here
you
we
can
go.
set an alarm. You can set an alarm for a continuous flow, and if it senses a continuous flow for a 24-hour period, it will send you an alarm. So if you have a toilet leaking, it's not you. A normal house will not use water in all constantly 24 hours a day. So if it detects any flow at all for 24 hours, it'll send you an alert.
Probably even set it at 10 hours, you know.
Well, it's 24 hours, but you could set that value to 2 gallons, or you can set it to 100 gallons of continuous flow for 24 hours per hour.
Bob, what's the name of the company again, so I can put it in the minutes?
EJP.
All right. We will get that back on the agenda.
Good.
You can put one of these on your own house and get a discount on your insurance. Because I know someone does that. And if you save 200 and you save 500 a year or something.
Any other citizen input? Thanks, Bob.
Just Jim Hahn from here in Culver, just because I've been getting several questions from town residents about the ski slope mound of grindings that we have up here. What's the story on that? By the tower, by the tank,
It chips.
the water tower.
The county's grinding the whole south end, the west and south shore. They're storing it.
What's
The whole
What's
west-
gonna happen to all those grindings?
Well, it's
All
belong to the
those
county.
They're gonna go to the
they
county.
all belong to the county. They all belong to the county. They just placed them there for a staging area to make their paving process more efficient. They're going to get those hauled out shortly.
Fine. That's what I suspected. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I've got something else. The leaves in the drains. I live on South Plymouth Street, Lily Arzola, Culver. I live on South Plymouth Street, and when we had that, it was a couple weeks ago, it was a pretty good sized downpour. That road that I don't know the name of it, but it connects by the Cove and South Plymouth Street right after the alley where the new, yeah. So that road was like my car literally could have just stalled out right there. That's how much water was there. And the next day I looked and there were a ton of leaves just piled in those 2 drains. I think there's 3 drains there actually, just off of South Plymouth Street as well. I noticed that by the park entrance, by the brown condos, there are like loofah type mats on the drains, and it looks like they're catching the leaves and the debris from the construction. I don't know if that's from the construction people or if that's a town thing, but I think it's a great idea because it literally catches all of those leaves and the water is still able to flow through. Just something to put out there. Maybe that's something that we can invest in throughout town because of the leaves in the drainage system going straight to the lake, clogging roads, blah, blah, blah. Just saying.
Well, and people are supposed to, clean their street gutters in front of your house, so they don't run all the way down.
I see a lot of
Down
people
by you like
blowing
My
their,
wife goes down the entire block on both
Yeah.
sides of the street. There's no drains and it comes into our drain.
right.
Is there someone, I know there's the drains on the Cove as you enter that parking lot, and those are privately owned by the Cove.
I don't believe so. Those were put in when those curbs and sidewalks were redone. They tie into, there's another drain on the to the west side of the street, right across from that, and they all tie into the same, same
Bob,
water sewer.
Didn't you say that I think it's 3 drains there entering that parking lot at the Cove? Aren't
That
those
long,
correct?
the long trough drain is the Coves that ties into their pond. The one
Yeah.
across the street is ours.
Okay, and I'm talking about the one Mark Sullivan looked in on Cove property, because that one is just full, like, it's absolutely worthless right now, and who is the contact for that, you know? Okay. Because we're, part of that, with that being drained, that's connected to, according to what Bob was telling me, I think, or Mark Sullivan, that drain needs to be working to drain out to the lake across the Cove there, because there's whatever goes out there.
There's a culvert pipe.
Yeah.
And when those ponds fill up to a certain height, there's a culvert pipe that goes out under some of the Cove property. I didn't know that those drains tied into the retention ponds back there. I thought they were tied to the drain across the street on the town stormwater. So,
I think they go out, okay. From what that Mark Sullivan was showing me that.
Okay.
Out there to look at the summer property. But yeah, we'll look into that.
Yeah, just like on the similar property, there are the 2 drains. There's
Right.
one right there on the corner and then there's one up. So there's 3 drains in that corner. But with that heavy rainfall, it was literally coming across Main Street down, right?
It's flooded for years.
Right.
I don't know why. I mean, I know I will get a heavy rain that floods. Everything keeps keep
Well,
drivers out there.
The big pipe that those drains go to and then go out to the lake, when we have opened up that pipe to take a look, and when the lake level is so high, so if you've got a pipe this big and it's already full of water from the lake, we've seen fish in there. Like,
Yeah.
so you only have this much space to take all that rainwater, and that's why it took so long to drain through, because it's already, the pipe's already.
Well, I get that. I was just saying, like, I saw those, mesh type of loofah type of draining
Yeah.
caps that collected the leaves on top of
That
it,
might
but
be
the
the
water was still
contractor.
able to go underneath. I was just putting that out there for food for thought.
Especially in areas where we're getting high flooding.
Right.
Hey, Bob, do you know if those are the contractors or are those ours?
No, those are the contractors. That's part of the erosion control for the project, because all the silt that's on the road, it filters it all out.
Okay.
They're
That's-
very restrictive as far as stormwater issues though.
Okay.
Anyone else for citizen input? Yeah, John.
One more question. Who takes care of the fir tree out in front of the Lions? Between the street and is that the parks? When they put the Christmas lights on?
I believe so. I would assume so.
You're talking about on the hill?
Yeah.
By the sign.
The only reason why I asked, nobody takes care of it. And I've been under twice this year, cutting out vines and all the crap that goes through the tree. I've done it twice so far. I'm getting a little old for that. If it belongs to the park, somebody tell the park to do it. If it belongs to the Lions, tell the Lions to do it.
Point well taken. Anyone else? Okay, let's move on to citizen, council issues.
No.
Rich,
No.
William,
Nothing, thank you.
William,
All done.
Sally? I just want to say, I want to thank, Chuck DeWitt for sitting in on the, interviews for the BZA. And all the people that, it goes to everyone and not just the ones that have applied for the BZA. You know, just because you don't get one position, don't think, you know, we want you to keep applying. I mean, we do want you to keep applying because, you know, we need qualified people, and to have one position available and to have 5 applicants, that's really excellent. And, you know, we need good people, and, you know, we could have, if we had 5 positions this time, we could have done all 5. So just thank everybody and just keep it in mind that, you know, keep applying. There's gonna be other opportunities down the road. That's all I have. Motion for adjournment?
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opening up just a really later. Not even close. You can't promise the picture of getting paid.
That's all right.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I'm the secretary. I think that, but
Thank you.
Jessica,
Well,
work together.
Yeah.
You get the paper.
Yeah, we're glad to be younger.
You'll get it.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Okay.
See you later.